It's 3 minutes past 7, and I'll get started. First off, thank you all so much for joining us this evening to talk about the Isaacs Yard project. My name is Chris Fuller. I'm the Economic Development Officer for Torridge District Council, and it's been my great pleasure to be developing this work in preparation for something called the Levelling Up Fund. I am coming to you slightly strangely from the site itself, and I'll give you a bit of a walk around on that one in a minute. It does feel very strange to be sat in an not abandoned, in a kind of empty garage by night with no one else around. However, I have just seen a rabbit run straight past me. So that does feel very, very strange right in the heart of Bideford. I will be very honest in that I do suffer from severe anxiety. So this kind of thing absolutely terrifies me and is truly, truly horrible. But we're really passionate about making sure that we're really open and transparent on this project, and that we really, really want to make sure that this once in a generation opportunity is maximized, and that we're looking to not only get our plans out to people, but to keep listening the whole way through the process. Just some boring starter points. We're all used to them by now, so I will apologise and I'll rattle through them as quickly as possible. As per the message that hopefully you all received at about 6 o'clock this evening, we will be recording this call. In effect, it's another way for us to make sure that as many people as possible can be seeing the site, can be hearing about it, and can feel that they can then interact and start feeding into the process. We are still at reasonably early days, so there's a lot of flex in terms of what we can do. I will ask that everyone obviously keeps a positive tone, constructive and sort of supportive, even when putting forward disagreements or alternative perspectives this evening, and that people stay on mute. Unfortunately for everyone, you can't mute the bird song that I've got in the background, but actually it's beautiful and it's absolutely lovely. We will have the chat room open, and please do contribute your thoughts in there. Later on, there will be an open Q&A session. So again, please make sure that make the most of that opportunity, and I will be as open and honest as I possibly can be. And the worst that I'll do is say, don't know, I'll try and come back to you, drop me an email, and we'll have that conversation in a different way. I'm delighted that I've been joined by my economic development team this evening, who'll be contributing. So we've got Hamish Cameron, who will be leading one of the breakout rooms, who's my economic development project officer. Adrian Avery, who has the fun task of leading on all the tech. This is a year in the breakout rooms and all the things, especially me being tethered in a garage somewhere. Tech has significant opportunities to go wrong. Fingers crossed it doesn't. And then we have Phoebe Russell, who is our brand new nature tourism officer, who'll be doing a lot of work around sustainability and the key tourism sector. So Phoebe's going to be monitoring the chat this evening. So the way it's going to work this evening, we'll try and keep it to under an hour. You've got far better things to be doing than listening to me. In a second, I'm going to walk through what the Levelling Up Fund is, which this project is moving towards rapidly. Then I'm going to go for a quick walk around the site so that people can actually see the site. I've posted many a photo about it, but I really don't feel that those photos fully capture the opportunity, the space, and also how things piece together. And you also can't capture either birdsong or tranquility through a photo. And that sense of green and well-being space in the heart of the town is something that's very important to me. We'll then talk a little bit through the proposals and the ideas that we want to be bringing forward in 2 breakout rooms before moving to a really open Q&A to end the session. So hopefully that'll work, and hopefully we'll manage to make sure that everyone's questions are answered and that we can take on board your thinking. Right, I'm now going to see if we can do the first joyful piece of technology, where I will get a little image up for you. Just going to double check. Hamish, can you see that, please?
Yes, I can. Yeah, we can see that, Chris. Thank you.
That's a massive relief. Hamish did think about messing with me there by not answering, but thankfully he was kind to me. So the Levelling Up Fund, in effect, is the government's first significant effort to deliver on its levelling up agenda. Now, that levelling up agenda up till now has been reasonably undefined. This fund is very much looking at a series of, well, 3 core opportunities. One is around town centre regeneration, one is around supporting cultural opportunities, and one is around supporting transport projects. The fund was announced in the budget in March. However, details of the fund weren't actually brought forward until the first half of April. Now, given the fact that the funding deadline is next Friday, that's a very, very short period of time in order to be developing what, as hopefully you'll see, are fairly complex proposals. So things have had to move very, very fast, but we're very proud of the projects that we've developed. It was originally developed for something called the Future High Street Fund in 2020, where Bideford managed to get through to one of the last 101 towns in the country as part of that funding stream. We were very pleased to get that far, but then absolutely devastated that we weren't then funded. We were given frustratingly glowing feedback by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Governments. Frustrating because the feedback was almost apologetic that they hadn't funded us, but it did mean that we could build that feedback and learning in to our work this time. Now, all of the proposals that we're putting forward have come from detailed community engagement that was initially undertaken back in early 2020, working with national experts in the form of the Onion Collective. If you haven't seen those, the outcomes from that, then those are available online at bit.ly/knowing Bideford, with both the K of knowing and the B of Bideford being capital letters. A sort of wide-ranging process was undertaken to get us to looking at what we know as the Isaacs Yard site, which is based in Herd's Garage in the heart of Bideford. Now, the design here was worked up in June, in fact, almost exactly a year ago. This is an early stage drawing to sort of capture the sense of what might be possible. It will probably not end up looking precisely like this because that's how these things work. I will also make the point of saying that in this sketch, it does have the space where Blanchard's currently is on Mill Street removed. That's not going to be the case. We're very keen to make sure that the Blanchard's units that we are looking to include in the project, with the owner's current support, stays in place. Partially because on an environmental perspective, we don't want to release the stored carbon that would entail, but also we know that there are kind of solid buildings, solid businesses, and interestingly, up until the 1960s, we've been informed that there was actually a walkway through the centre of that unit opening up into this space, something that we're very keen to explore how we rekindle. So, as I said, that's oh, hang on, this is where I start getting technology issues. There we go. I'm no technological whiz kid. There we go. Oh, I got some very scary error messages there. Can everyone nod your head? Becky, Kat, and Steve, if you can still see me. Phew. Hamish is massively relieved because that means that he doesn't have to take over. The Levelling Up Fund is not just about economic gains. We've been really clear on this project that this is a truly once-in-a-generation opportunity to truly address, or at least take strides to address, some of the underpinning issues that we all recognise hold our community back. We've made sure that we're very much working on delivering, yes, economic goals, but also community goals. One of the findings from the Onion Collective work was around the need to bridge our community and provide spaces for everyone to come together. We're very much focused on ensuring that we are environmentally progressive with this, that actually Bideford be put on the map through this project and become a destination as a result, with those environmental principles absolutely front and centre. And please, please keep an eye open next week, because we have some incredibly exciting news that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, otherwise I'll get in real trouble, but already is putting Bideford on a really exciting plane. And social. This space should be a really sociable space, bringing people, again, back together within Bideford. Now, enough of me talking. I'm going to go for a walk. So fingers crossed that my signal doesn't die, because otherwise Hamish's heartbeat will significantly rise. Oh, hang on. I'm not sure if anyone saw that, but just underneath that van, there is our rabbit. Sorry, I'm not going to go and get too close to him, because that's the last thing he wants. Right. This is the rear end of the Herd's garage. Now, what you might not be able to see there is just how far back that space actually goes. So at the moment, I'm facing towards Bridgeland Street. I'm then going to swivel around, and over here we have the rear of Mill Street. So the metal elements here are the rear of Blanchard's. Swinging round again, Crabby Dicks, the Petit Monde, and Patch and Parrot. Now, we're keen sort of moving forward, and I've already had dialogue with the operators of all those buildings, less so Patch and Parrot for obvious reasons, about the potential for those businesses to open up and explore how we can create real, what's called permeability between the spaces, and create a really nice inflow, with Isaac's Yard effectively acting as what we like to call slow space in the heart of the town. When you come into Bideford, into the town centre, there's nowhere just to be. Yes, you can stop at a cafe, but you're kind of generally walking through and going places rather than just being within the town. And then, okay, so there's going to be, that is currently the rear of the Silk Lounge, and there's going to be an entranceway coming through there. So you can see the fencing there. That actually just is removable fencing that I could walk over and take away. Now, in fact, there's some Harris fencing there. So that entranceway is already there, and there'll be clear sort of route in through there. Now, this will initially seem quite dark. Hopefully my camera will adjust. I do have the owner's permission to be here tonight. I haven't broken in, I promise. And I also need to make sure I don't fall into the pit, because that would be comedy value, and inflation has not kicked in on You've Been Framed, so I'd still only get £250. However, and I will say publicly a thanks to the owner, who has been very supportive with our efforts. Now, this space, to me, has such enormous potential. Again, I'm not sure if you can fully grasp this roof. If you walk past on Queen Street, it is absolutely stunning. And with a bit of love and a bit of attention, will be a really special feature. Our initial architects were very keen just to knock this space down and start again with a brand new building. Whereas actually, again, with a sort of a desire to not release the stored carbon, there's a huge amount of character in here. And all of a sudden, I hope you can pick up now that even on a fairly kind of greyish evening, there's actually a huge amount of light in here. Then walking through again, making sure I don't fall over anything. There's another really sizable part of the building there, trying not to get too many registration plates in, which again, with a bit of love and a bit of creativity, and again, please watch this space next week when we talk about creativity and some of the people we've got involved, has huge, huge potential. Right. Again, making sure I don't fall down the pit. So what's also lovely about this space is the fact that you do walk through different parts within the site. Now, my favourite part, the roof's pretty good, but this bit is special. Now, if I get away without falling over in here, I will be absolutely stunned. As you can see, it's a little bit overgrown at the moment. Now, I know some people on the call have previously engaged with a town centre project called the Little Green Town. If you haven't, then please do look up on Facebook, Making Bideford the Little Green Town, which is a Friends of the Earth supported innovation project, one of about 5 national Friends of the Earth innovation projects, looking at taking over abandoned and neglected or unloved spaces in the town centre and using them for community growing. So there's lots of fruit and veg, edibles all over the place, and lots of happy bee plants. Liz, the community gardener, is absolutely in love with this space. And I'm just going to walk through a second more. So you can see over behind there, you've got an entranceway, or behind there's Queen Street. And then we're at the rear currently of 28 Bridgeton Street. The house will not be included in this project, but this space will be. Now, I'm actually just going to go silent for a few seconds and hopefully just let people listen. What's wonderful is it's like that all the time. Even when it's the middle of the day and it's busy out on Bridgeton Street or on the Quay's only a very, very short hop away. Because of the high walls around the space, and then because beyond that, you've got the buildings of Queen Street, Bridgeton Street, Cooper Street, and then sort of Mill Street that way, you're very, very protected from any noise outside. It is an absolutely stunning piece of tranquility in the heart of the town, which I will confess, up until about 18 months ago, I didn't know existed. And if you look on Google Maps and put it onto satellite view, you'll see it. I've managed to avoid falling in the pond as well, which is a really good thing. And again, this is where I'm going to get caught in this overgrown. But again, you can see how far back that goes. So the intention for this space is very much to ensure that we provide, getting caught on the overgrowth, that we provide opportunities for this to very much be community managed. Throughout the project, we want to make sure that the community really feel a sense of ownership and engagement with the space. And that absolutely crucially, people feel proud of their town and the offer that's available within Isaacs Yard. They want to be involved in it. They want to get engaged with it, and they want to spend time there, because town centres are changing dramatically. We know that the rise in online shopping means that people don't use towns in the same way. So it's about how we make sure that our town, which is a local resident, I don't always feel necessarily works for me or for my children. So it's about making sure that we have that shift. Right. So the key question then is, how do we want to use it? Oh, here we go. Okay, so as I said, we're looking at a mix of opportunities here. Now, a lot of this project is about creating linkages. It's about creating opportunities that don't currently exist. And what we're talking about as part of that is some co-working space, and I put a post on the Facebook page about that this evening, bringing people together to work, especially those people who've now got used to working from home. And that does include people who are moving down, or people who, for example, where they no longer sort of have offices, and stopping people from having to commute, again, with that hefty kind of carbon impact. We've been working with the North Devon CCG, a part of the NHS, and also with TTVS, Local Voluntary Services, to develop proposals looking at a community hub. So that's bringing together various charitable and voluntary sector organisations to create real linkages. One of the things that frustrates pretty much everyone I've ever met is where you have any kind of issue that you need to overcome in terms of health and well-being, being referred from one organisation to another organisation to another, rather than just going, oh, Bob, Tina, could you just nip in here a sec so that we can have this conversation now, rather than you having to have it in 3 weeks' time. And the ambition there is to create that as a very flexible space as well, which will allow bookable spaces for community events. Within the garage, one of my favourite elements is the sense of creating some really vibrant street food, small food and drink units within that repurposed garage space, which I think will be a real hit the whole way through the year. I'm forever hearing, and I'm frustrating myself, hang on, there isn't actually anywhere to go of an evening, to just meet someone for a drink, a small bite to eat. That's what we're looking to do here. Again, a space just to be and to dwell in a nice and calm way, both in the summer and all year round. We're then looking to create 16 residential units, including 5 affordables, on top of some of the existing spaces. The scheme is complicated. Making sure that the numbers add up, even with government input, is going to be challenging. However, one of the things about having residential offer within the space is that actually that creates both pride from those residents in being within the space, and also a sense of safety, that the space never feels abandoned. There's always activity and warmth that comes through it. And we're really excited by, again, can't talk about it, but the people that we've got on board next week who are going to be helping to drive that forward. Really making sure that those residential units are perfectly pitched for climate emergency times and as a starter for people to get onto the ladder. We've then been working on plans for a heritage centre. One of the things that I'm acutely aware of is that our town, that people aren't necessarily proud of now, has such an amazing history that's rich with so many stories to tell, that we want to really bring that forward. But equally, we want to bring it forward in a very dynamic way. We want this heritage centre to be somewhere that attracts visitors, but it's also somewhere that locals can come back to time and time again and spend sort of time making sure that our young people in particular are really learning about their history and can be proud of it, and at times challenged by it, and making sure that we're learning from that. We want to create, as I mentioned, access to the community garden, and I'm also delighted that we have been offered funding by something called the Rural Community Energy Fund to develop feasibility work on the renewables mix for the project, because we need to make sure that this space really is driven by renewables, and that we're thinking about the future of our planet as well as this space and of the town. So, all in all, what we're looking at is a sense of this being a starting point, starting to get to the town moving and creating opportunities. And so all of that leads to next week, I have to go to Torres District Council's full council to confirm their co-funding for the project, as was unanimously agreed to for the Future High Street Fund in 2020. It must be said that this project has huge amounts of support from various different organisations, from in terms of economic partners like the Federation of Small Businesses, from the South West Business Council. We have the support of all the local schools in Bideford and Petrock. We have environmental organisations from Friends of the Earth to the North Devon UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. We have local retailers, local businesses, because this is all about creating the right kind of change. We are promised an announcement in autumn 2021. However, last year for the Future High Street Fund, we were promised an announcement in autumn 2020, and it came out on Boxing Day in 2020, which I didn't particularly classify as autumn. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed that this time that announcement comes as soon as possible, because we really are determined to get cracking as soon as we can. Right, I'm going to come off of screen share. Oh, hang on. And then forget to come back to the actual call. There we go. Right, enough of me talking. Hopefully that's given people kind of a sense of the space itself. I'm now going to hand over to Adrian to put us all into breakout rooms. So I'm going to lead one of the rooms, and Hamish is going to lead another one of the rooms. We're going to be in there for 15 minutes. And what I forgot to do was to go to the slides mentioning what we'd like you to be discussing in those breakout rooms, because I'm aware that I'm well over the time that I'd allocated. So what we'd like you to be ideally talking about within those breakout rooms is, are we kind of on the right sort of lines about some of the things that the town faces and about creating the right kind of space within our town? What do you make of the proposals in terms of the components that we're looking at? So residential, food and drink, co-working, a cultural heritage centre, and the community hub. How important to you is that? How important to you is making sure that this project has really strong environmental characteristics, and equally the theme of aspiration and creating opportunities? I would also like you to have a quick conversation, pretty please, around the name. We have been calling the project and the site Isaac's Yard, which is, it must be said, was not a name that was pushed by the current site owner, although it is his surname, but it's one that we kind of felt almost summoned up an image of a kind of post-industrial space, having converted then to a cultural and community space in a similar way to the likes of Neal's Yard in London. We liked the name. We thought it caught the right spirit, but we want to make sure that we're just double checking that with people and that people feel that it's on the right lines. So on that note, enough from me. Adrian, 3, 2, 1. Let's see if this bit works. Hamish, how were your discussions?
They're very good, thank you. We had some nice positive comments about the current plan and the ideas, which was nice to hear. We talked about the heritage asset as well, in terms of how we can link the multiple groups around town into one space to support that heritage input. And we finished quite positively on the regeneration benefit of this to the wider part of the town, to help bring up Bideford as a town itself in terms of just property and how maybe things like Bridgeland Street are used. And then the nice thing was, there was a general consensus that the name Isaac's Yard fits really well, and actually works quite well with the heritage part of it, in terms of this is what it used to be. This was in this family for a long time, and now this is acting as another part to help build Bideford better.
Fantastic. I mean, our discussions were fairly similar in terms of general positivity. We had strong support for environmental principles, strong support for creating strong aspirational routes. The one additional thing that we did end up getting onto was making sure that actually we're not creating inadvertent antisocial behaviour opportunities, and that we really strongly focus on a design that creates positive flows through the town, that also tries to address issues in Jubilee Square, and that actually the space be made to feel welcoming and supportive for all, rather than in any way intimidating or excluding.
We actually have on that as well, to be fair, which Steve brought up in our group with regards to how that links through Jubilee Square and Cooper Street. So it's nice to hear it's consistent across the groups.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also nice that we are trying to kind of take strides in that, and that will be a central part of the design process as well. Right. Now, we've got a few minutes left. Effectively, this is open to anyone who wants to challenge us, to ask a question, to find out more. It's not your only opportunity to kind of pose these questions. Please feel free. Hopefully you've all got access to the Facebook page, Bid for Bideford, Isaacs Yard. Please, if something kind of crops into your head later on, or you just don't want to say it kind of publicly in this forum, please do feel free to send us a message, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Probably tomorrow, but as soon as we can. Adrian, I've just seen that you've posted in the chat that there were some questions raised. Oh no, just said questions asked. Okay. Does anyone want to come off mute and ask any questions? Becky?
Yeah, I was just thinking, just following on from my little rant about a space to be able to make music workshops. It's just in terms of vehicle access, for sort of loading things in and out and getting stuff. What's the sort of plan for that?
It's going to be complicated, is the honest truth. Queen Street is not a particularly wide street. Now, actually, the way that we are pitching the site, I'm not going to go into great detail, but what we're looking at is something called a 15-minute neighbourhood, which has been accepted generally in planning terms, especially kind of in environmental circles, and is now the main planning driver in Amsterdam, Paris and Barcelona. So it's nice that Bideford is being kind of linked to those cities. I'm sure we can just create a nice twinning route between them, whereby actually people living within the town centre, within this space, shouldn't actually need a car. If you think about kind of the site itself has plentiful public transport right by the sides of it. We're looking to create working spaces sort of within the site, leisure spaces. We've got the retail offer kind of nearby. We're also keen to investigate things like e-bike rental schemes to be able to connect people up, for example, to the Tarka Trail, to get up to Westwood Ho, Appledore, for example. So what we're not looking at doing, Becky, is creating a large amount of parking kind of in the space, or sort of resident parking. We're also focusing very much on kind of locals. So what we don't necessarily want to see either is big lorries needing to get into the space. Now, yes, that will create complexities when we come to the construction process. But there will be kind of what I'd call kind of emergency services access through kind of the garage space that I'm guessing would then be appropriate, Becky, for the kind of vehicle that you'd be looking to get in if you were running music workshops in here. So what we don't want to see is kind of huge amounts of traffic coming through, because we want it to be a safe pedestrianised area, but equally we recognise that there will need to be the occasional vehicle coming through.
Yeah, that's cool. Just to follow on from that, in terms of the idea that there won't need to be resident parking, how likely is it, do you think, that the people who will end up living there will not have cars?
I would like to think that over the next couple of years we can put in enough legwork to make sure that actually people living here don't need to have cars. That I mentioned e-bikes, by also looking at things like carpools and shared car facilities, that actually moving the town towards and the community towards less car dependence, and making sure that there is more here. What I can't say, Becky, of course, is that kind of everyone who wants to live here will be saying, no, we don't have a car, we don't need a car. But actually, again, this is part of, as I mentioned on one of the earlier slides, that this site being a starting point, and it being that starting point in terms of how we discuss the need for cars, the need for kind of those kinds of options moving forward. So it's, and the process between now and having a completed site will be a couple of years. It will take quite a while to clear the site in the first instance. So, and that gives us an opportunity to kind of invest in that conversation, but also start working with potential people who will be looking at these residential units.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I only ask because I live in a bit of Bideford that is absolutely nightmarish for parking.
Yeah.
and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
And every time places are developed, there's never any parking that goes with it, and it just gets worse. So it's
Yeah, completely.
something that's kind of on my mind.
No, rightly so. And sort of, I used to live in central Bideford as well, and parking was always a nightmare when I was here. But it's then about going, right, well, we know we've got the issues with this, so why do so many people need so many cars? Well, at the moment, for example, 40% of the residents of Torridge commute out of district to work. Well, if you think about the economic leakage that causes, let alone the pollution impacts, why aren't we looking to support those people to work within the district? If you don't have to be driving your car, sort of, say in a kind of a family, if a conventional family, both parents have to drive to work, you need two cars. But if actually you can be working within the town centre, then those things are limited. If we can then sort of persuade some of those two car households to be shedding one of the cars, all of a sudden you're creating both space gains and environmental gains. So it's a gradual transition, but it's also about having the relevant conversations as a community. And that's again something that we hope that this project will enable us to have over the next few years.
Cool, thanks.
A pleasure. Right, I know I promised that we would try and finish just before 8 o'clock. Does anyone else want to take themselves off of mute and come up with a question, or make me feel awkward, or challenge us for anything? Apart from the birds, I'm currently hearing nothing. There's a lot of nice birds over here. In which case, all I can say is a huge thank you to everyone for giving up some of your Thursday evening for joining us. Please do keep in touch and make sure that you keep following the Facebook page and also the website. And fingers crossed that the next time we get to meet will actually physically be in this space in Isaacs Yard. So on that note, thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, and hopefully speak to you soon. Many thanks. Bye.
Thank you for your time, everybody. Take care.